All right, take it away, Angelo.
All right, yeah, hello. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Salem Human Rights Commission. My name is Angelo Arredondo. I am the chair of the commission. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a resident Ward 2. As every single time we meet, we're going to do introduction to popcorn style. I'll, just say your name. But I'll pass it on to somebody. Then when you introduce yourself, just pass it on to the next person, and so on. And I'll pass it on to Joaquin today.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Joaquin. I am a member of the commission and a resident of Ward 8. It's good to see everybody tonight. Susan, would you care to go?
I'm Susan McNaught. I am a resident of South Salem. I use she, her, and I will pass it to Kathy.
Everyone, I'm Kathy Ostrand-Punch. I'm a member of the Human Rights Commission. I live in South Salem. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'll pass it to Hope.
Hi, my name is Hope Strayer. I am a member of the Human Rights Commission and I live in West Salem. I will be passing it to Kelsey.
Thanks, Hope. My name is Kelsey. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a member of the Human Rights Commission, and I live in Ward 4, and I will pass it to Laura.
Thank you. If you can hear barking dogs, I'm really sorry. I'm Laura Fouts. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a resident of Ward 3. And I will pass it to Greg. Can we hear it? Is your audio working now or your mic working?
Yes, I fiddled around with it. It's the first time I've done a Zoom on my tablet. So I'm Greg Azure. I live in South Salem, a new commission member. I did serve several years. I think I resigned in 2013 to take a job out of town. So it's good to be back and anxious to roll up my sleeves and help out.
Excellent. I think Deb, that leaves you and me if you want to go.
Okay, perfect. I'm Debbie Aguilar. I'm a lieutenant with Salem, and I'm the liaison between the police department and the Human Rights Commission. And Gretchen, over to you.
Very good. Hi, everybody. I'm Gretchen Bennett. I'm the staff liaison to the commission and use she, her pronouns, and it's good to be here.
All right, thanks everybody. Did we get everybody? I think we did, right? All right. Well, welcome new members and welcome back to Greg as well. Okay, thank you everybody. I think we can move on to our public comment. Gretchen, do we have any public comment tonight?
No, none received.
And I don't think we have members of the public at this meeting right now, correct?
Not that I see, no.
Thank you. We can move on to our consent calendar, approval of agenda and approval of minutes. As always, whenever anybody's ready, I will need a motion and a second.
I move we approve both the agenda and minutes.
Thank you, Susan. Any second?
I'll second that. This is Kelsey.
All right. Thank you, Kelsey. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? Okay, didn't think so. Thank you. Approval of agenda and minutes are approved. We can move on to our action and our discussion items, and that is bias crime update. Lieutenant Aguilar.
Yes. Okay, so we had 3 bias crimes since early September, and actually two of them were about the time of our last meeting. So they're a little bit delayed, but the first one was September 2nd, and it was in Southeast Salem, and a member called reporting that they had property damage at their home, and they believed that it was from somebody had confronted them after a public meeting, and there were some racial terms being used during that confrontation, and then day they found some property damage. So we don't have a suspect at this point, but was documented as a potential. Then the second one happened on September 8th, and that was in Northeast Salem. And it was a group of juveniles, so about 12, 13 years old, who live in the same area and were in a disagreement fight, and several racial slurs were used amongst the group, as well as some physical threats being made. Those suspect juveniles ended up being referred to the Marion County Juvenile Department for their actions, and then parents were notified. The last one occurred on September 22nd, was in Northeast Salem. And the victim and their family were in an area right outside their home when they were confronted by an unknown suspect who was making racial slurs towards the family and threatened one of the family members with a weapon. The police were called. We were able to arrive and contact the suspect, ultimately arrested them, and took them to the Marion County Correctional Facility. Crimes. So those are the three crimes, and then we had two bias incidents. The first one was on September 14th in Southeast Salem. It was a disturbance between neighbors in an apartment complex parking lot, where one of the neighbors, as they were moving past the other neighbor, used some racial slurs towards the complainant neighbor. No crime was committed. However, it was documented, and that complainant was provided information about the hotline, the state hotline, the bias hotline. And then the second one was on September 20th in Northeast Salem, where again, it was two sets of neighbors who were in a dispute. Actually, both neighbors reported that the other neighbor used racial slurs against them. So we had dual reports of that. So that was documented, and the neighbors were provided with the state bias crime hotline. And that is all I have. If there are any questions.
Thank you, Lieutenant. This is Joaquin. I actually do have a question for you. So I think in the time that I've been on the commission, which admittedly isn't too long, since May I've been coming to meetings, so maybe April, but I've noticed a sizable proportion, or at least a significant minority of these cases occur between or among youth populations. And so I was wondering if you had any data to share either now or in the future with us around the percentage or the persistence of kind of youth incidences, because I know part of some of the things we're thinking about involves youth outreach. Obviously, Hope is here with us now. We're grateful to her and her service to this commission. But I think if we could be a little bit more attentive and deliberate about that, and thinking about what we can do in response to that, or what recommendations we might have. If you could collate some data, I think would be really valuable for us. I don't know what others' thoughts are.
Yeah, absolutely. I can. Anecdotally, I think that as far as bias crimes, I think we've had about two involving, three involving juveniles, I think about, and then some more bias incidents involving the juveniles. So I can get that information, and I can actually probably find it here during the meeting and then provide it to you. I've got it pulled up on my computer, so I can give you just some rough data. I can tell you that most of the times it's juveniles who live within close proximity and are in a fight, or some kind of juvenile disagreement, and then usually slurs or something used against the other juveniles. So that tends to be it, with usually a physical component. So it's in a fight. So there's an assault or harassment, and then that is used. But the age range does seem to be about middle school-ish. So 8th about, but I'll get some of that here real quick, and then I'll share it with you at the end of the meeting.
Thank you. And just as like maybe an addendum too, before it slips my mind, maybe to today or in the future about location too, because I noticed a couple, at least during my time here, have been in school campuses like elementary schools and stuff like that, public places notably, where children are often present or come through, whether it's like graffiti or what have you. So I don't know, just to keep in mind as well. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, playgrounds, I think, and apartment complex, parking lots or gathering areas tends to be what I see mostly. But yes, I can certainly do that.
Any more questions for Lieutenant Aguilar? All right, hearing none, I think we can move on to our complaints/concerns of discrimination. Gretchen.
I had none received during the past month, so nothing to report.
Gretchen, it's been quite a long time since you've reported nothing. So I think that's, in a sense, good news because nobody has reported anything. So yeah, what about our approach to meetings, Gretchen?
Yes, I'd be happy to talk about that. You might remember at the last meeting, we had some discussion about the idea of returning to in-person, remaining remote, and the city's policy that doesn't lean into hybrid. Your discussion identified people with accessibility needs and desires that would lean in both directions, and so asked for an exception and an ability to accommodate everyone who wants to participate. And yes, we can do that. So you would have the option to have me, for example, we can be physically at the mayor and city manager's office for those who would want to come and physically be around that table or have that accessibility need to be in person and not be on the computer. And then I can also activate the Zoom link in that conference room for those who would need to be at home remote. And then we'll just need to get good at acknowledging the table and the screen and balancing ensuring that the conversation can flow smoothly between those two tables, so to speak. So I wanted to provide you with that update and then ask you if that is in fact the direction you want to go in. That seemed to be the consensus of last meeting, but wanted to check back in and see if that is the direction you'd like to go and when you'd like to begin that. I was going to recommend beginning in December, I forgot, because I'm personally unable to be at the November meeting. And I thought that might be easier if we didn't transition also with substitute staffing. So I wanted to recommend any change to our approach would begin with a December meeting, if I may.
This is Laura. I'm in favor of all of that.
This is Kelsey. Also.
This is Kathy. I'm glad that we were able to get an exception and do hybrid meetings. I think that'll be good. Hopefully we get more participation from both directions. So yeah, thank you.
This is Greg. I haven't spoke up before. Can you hear me and see me?
We can, thank you.
Oh, good. First time out. So I think it's a great idea because it provides that option. And, you know, sometime either you're traveling or you have business or whatever, if you have the option of tuning in remotely, then we can be more inclusive that way. So I agree with the new idea.
Susan,
Angela,
oh,
Oh, please go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Be
I was gonna say,
sorry.
I think I saw Susan talking, but you were on mute. No? Okay.
Actually, I forgot I was on mute. I was just going to say, I really agree with the idea, and especially starting in December. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Linnell, you have a question?
Me?
No, Linnell.
No.
I work at Safe Sleep United Women's Shelter, and I try to sit in on your meetings whenever I can. I was opening and missed the public comment part, but I wondered if I can make a comment or if it's too late.
Yeah, go ahead, Linnell.
I really wanted to thank you all so much. I get teary talking about this topic, but I feel like the work that you all did to follow up about the discrimination surveys, prepare reports, identify whether it was going to be feasible to create a new protected class, and all the research and time and effort and work and recommendations and patience and hours that you guys put in. I am so, so grateful. And I was in tears that the city council approved forwarding that ordinance that connects to that. But I'm so grateful for your work. I feel like you've given people a voice. I hope, I don't know if a next step might be going to the state level and see if they might do similarly, but whether that can happen or not now or in the future, I feel like you've given people another avenue, another voice. And I have to open the door, but I'll be right back.
Any other questions or comments on the approach to meetings? If none, we could
Thank you.
begin in December. And Linnell, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I
no,
just
no.
started talking about something else. Did you want to add anything to the remarks?
I'm so grateful, and I'm just really excited that we have this other avenue, and I hope there might be a feasibility of like taking it to the state level also. And I also am really excited about you guys having a column and an education group, and I'm going to be happy to participate in any way I can for the pieces that I might know something. But thank you all so much.
Thank you for your help, Linnell. You've been a great help too. Is she gone? Linnell's been a great help for the discrimination survey. She's done a lot for us as well.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Well, this is Laura Fouts. Gretchen, I just want to say thank you for taking our request for the hybrid meeting forward, and appreciate that.
My pleasure. Hearing no objection, why don't we do Zoom again in November with my colleague subbing for me, and then in December, you'll see invitation in both ways, and then it would be up to you how you'd like to participate. Great.
Gretchen, this is Kathy. Quick question. Will the same be true for the public invitation?
Yes.
People can choose to come to City Hall or watch it on YouTube, I guess.
That's correct. People
Okay.
could come to City Hall. I can share the Zoom link if they'd like to come in, as we have a couple guests tonight,
Mhm.
or they can, well, I can't remember what I already said, but yes, all the same options available: YouTube, Zoom, or in person at City Hall.
Okay.
Yeah. I should acknowledge that we don't have this technology available in all of the meeting rooms of the city. So you might notice some inconsistency with different boards, commissions, and committees, but I'm glad we were able to do it in this case and accommodate the request. We do have that technology in the mayor and city manager's office.
Gretchen, is that the old space that we used to have our meetings?
It is, although I should say, for those of you who've been in and around the commission a while, the commission's used several spaces. They've used the Anderson rooms at the library. They've used the community development conference room on the 3rd floor and the Public Works conference room I've seen us in, but most recently and most consistently, we've used the mayor and city manager's office conference room, which is in room 220, the 2nd floor of the City Hall of the Civic Center. It's 555 Liberty Street Southeast, room 220.
Yeah, and I believe apart from me, Krista, and I think Greg in the past, nobody has had an in-person, commission meeting because everybody's, newer.
Yeah, you could be right. I think you might be right.
Yeah, so I think it is an exciting time, and I am excited to have, hybrid starting in December. So if there's no other further discussion on this topic, I'd like to move to our task force and project updates. And let's start with awareness. Kathy.
Okay, thanks, Angelo. Pulling up my notes here. So there's been a couple of big updates, but one big update for September is that the results of the discrimination survey were published September 26th. And so those went out by a number of different ways, email, whatever. Gretchen took care of that, but with that, we got that out. So that was good because there was a little bit of a delay there when we were waiting for the DEI report to go to City Council. What we talked about at our last task force meeting is before doing the next survey, maybe having a conversation with Marianne, the professor from Western Oregon University, about how we might be able to design it and the questions so that the data we get from the survey is more actionable. What can we actually do about it? Right now, we get information about people who have experienced discrimination, which is good to know, but we don't have a lot of ability to do anything about it when we don't know more specifics. And so we'll plan on having that conversation before starting the next survey, as well as planning it out ahead of time more. So the after part, this time we ended up waiting until after council had gotten a report, but we hadn't planned on that beforehand. We didn't realize that was going to need to be a step in there. So we'll talk more about the process. Another thing we talked about is the idea for a monthly column. It would do a number of things. One is the purpose of the awareness committee is to raise awareness of the Human Rights Commission in the community. And if we could get at least a monthly column published in various sources around town, that would be a way to do that. And topics would be like, introduction to the Human Rights Commission, what to do if you experience discrimination, how to report, if there's any sort of events or occurrences that come up that we might want to address. And so we've come up with kind of a draft workflow for that. And we wanted to bring it back to this group to get input. And then at our next task force meeting 2 weeks from today, we'll kind of finalize that and come up with a final plan. So I think the workflow went out to the group. Is that right? So kind of loosely, if we could identify some topics for what the articles would cover, assign authors to those topics. They don't have to be awareness task force members. They could be Human Rights Commission members. They could be members of the public, depending on what the topic is. Have a due date for an article to be written and sent to Gretchen. And then she would in turn send it to the task force members as well as the commission, if that's what we want, so that everyone can have a chance to review the article and comment on it. Have a specific deadline by which comments need to be due. And if there is no feedback, then we'd move ahead. We wouldn't stop anything. We talked about having some continuity to the process is important. We don't want to get started and then stop and have it be a period of time before the public hears from us. We want to keep it going. We did talk about I think it was the last task force meeting. On one of the meetings, we talked about translating it into Spanish for sure. I don't know if we had decided on Russian also. That may have been the last Human Rights Commission meeting where that conversation happened. So that's something to talk about. And then when it's finalized, have Gretchen send it out for publication. Any thoughts or feedback on that as a process? Is there anything missing? Is there anything that might make it work a little bit more smoothly? Anybody has any input on that? And then Seeing none. As far as topics, just if there's some brainstorming about it seems to me it'd be nice to have some ahead of time so we could get some lined up so that we're not having to rush at the last minute every month to get something out there. So introduction to the Human Rights Commission, HRC 101, and I think there's probably something out there that already exists that could be used as that article. You know, a definition: what is a bias crime? What is a bias incident? How to report current activities. You know, we've got a lot of things going on that we could share and let the public know about. The discrimination survey, when that comes up again. One of the things that we've talked about doing is an anti-bias education campaign, and the monthly column could be a means to do that. Promoting various events in the community. The one example that's upcoming, there's a Salem for Refugees event coming up in November that we could use to promote that. And then just bringing awareness to things that are happening in the community. If we become aware of some incidents or maybe some trends that we're seeing, we could address that as well. So if anybody has any other suggestions, other ideas of things, and this is not limited to today, if things happen in the future or something occurs to you, let Gretchen know and she can pass it on to the task force and we can take it from there. Joaquin or Susan, do you have anything to add? Oh, Susan, I don't think you were at the last task force meeting, but you've been.
I don't think I was. I think that I was fighting with a computer. I really like your idea of having several articles ready to go so that we're not scrambling. I think it will make things a little bit more thoughtful and a little more cohesive as we go through. So that's my thought.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Kathy, for summarizing that. I think you did so pretty faithfully, what we were discussing. I think maybe the only thing I would clarify and add was the group had discussed, as it relates to workflow, who would be writing what and when and how. And I think we were, and I think it's mentioned in the document, but just to name it here, we were talking about keeping the writing or authorship primarily to the awareness committee, though not excluding anyone else should anybody have interest or a topic or what have you. But keeping the circle smaller probably is more conducive to getting it out, getting it written, getting it edited. Of course, with the monthly consent of the larger committee. I don't want to, Kathy, if you probably have a clearer sense of what I'm trying to say than I do, but I just to mention that too, and to clarify that for folks on the commission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. That is something that we talked about.
So Joaquin, what you're saying is Kathy's really good at reading your mind, right?
You know, it's a dangerous place to venture into, but yes, it would seem so.
I like it.
Well, one of the things we talked about is keeping that monthly workflow moving, right? There's going to have to be work between meetings in order to get something out on a monthly basis. And so having the task force primarily being the ones to look at that, but also asking for input from the rest of you is what we had talked about, that how that would work. So yeah, just looking at my notes to see if there's anything else. The articles would be informational, not include commentary, and I think that's one of the things that we've talked about just as a commission and with Gretchen is sharing information, facts, processes, but not so much what we think about or what we think that people should think about things, because we all have different opinions, and we're here to raise awareness, not necessarily change minds or tell people what they need to think. The topics we need to stay within the scope of the Human Rights Commission, Chapter 97 and Chapter 8. We also talked about the articles being from the Human Rights Commission as a whole, not from an individual author. So if I write an article, my name's not going to be on it. It's just going to be something from the Human Rights Commission. And then so we would line up a number of articles so that we're ready to go. But if something happens in the community then that might take the place of something else for that month. And the rest would just get pushed off another month, depending on what's going on, so that we're also keeping current on what's going on out there. So yeah, if that sounds okay to people, then we'll take it back to our next task force meeting and finalize the plan and get it going. I don't know that we necessarily have a start date, but we can at least get everything prepared for that. So yeah, let's see. I think I might have a couple other things on my update. September and October communications. September communication was the survey results. October, we had talked about doing something for Indigenous Peoples Day. I don't know that I saw that something had come out. Maybe it did and I just missed it.
Did you ever email me, Gretchen? Or did I miss something?
I thought that I did, but I'll go back and
Oh.
double check after the meeting and
It's
forgive me if I
possible you
didn't.
did. No, forgive me if I just didn't see it. I have 5,000 emails in my inbox. That's true. That's an accurate number. I don't know.
believe
I don't
you.
know if I saw it, but I'm sorry if I missed it.
I'll go back and look and resend. What we're discussing is that Joaquin was delighted to draft something related to Indigenous Peoples Day, and as a prompt or a help, we have the proclamation that mayor and council, they did proclaim on Monday evening at their council meeting, and so that's language that just could be helpful as a piece when writing. So I'll make sure you've got that.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Kathy, if I may, November
ahead.
you've got, there's the Salem for Refugees idea. There's also the commission's Transgender Day of Remembrance event. So a
That's
couple
right.
ideas in November for the committee's exploration. But I imagine that would be a discussion at October Awareness Task Force.
Yeah, those are both very good suggestions. Okay. The only other thing that we talked about was chapter 97, which I see is the next thing on the agenda. So I think I will just turn it over back to Gretchen to talk about that.
Yes, Angela, is that okay? Or I don't know if there's other questions for Kathy.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy, for all your work and all the other members of the awareness task force. And Gretchen, if you want to do chapter 97 and also equity asks, since I know they're together and that's your both items.
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, on chapter 97, you're all aware that this is the city's human rights code, or the section of the law that relates to the city's perspective on human rights. And it's one of the core documents that we work with all the time. And Kelsey, that looked exciting here. Kelsey's gesturing back there with Kat. And I am letting you know, if you didn't yet see, you might have already seen that City Council did take the first of two steps to amend chapter 97 per your recommendations. Adjusting language in general, there were several elements of the chapter that needed adjusting that you might remember, as well as the main shift is in adding housing status along the list. So you might remember there's different identities listed, like race, gender, age, religion, etc. And so this would add housing status in. As you all know, your recommendation to council last year is what led to this. So step one was Monday night. They unanimously supported the recommendation. And then step two would be at the next meeting in October 24th. It's what they call second reading. And if it again goes through, then that would mean that it becomes effective 30 days after that date. So we're on our way to having that change. I also wanted to acknowledge Kathy. Commissioner Ostran-Ponthieu testified that night and also submitted written comment to council. So wanted to acknowledge Kathy's contributions into the council conversation. And I also wanted to acknowledge that Councillor Hoy, also Mayor-elect Hoy, shared appreciation to the Human Rights Commission for this work and remarked on his appreciation for your work in bringing that forward. So wanted to give you those updates. The Awareness Task Force has been thinking ahead to some different communications that we can do with stakeholders that work with people experiencing homelessness, and I have two or three, I think three groups lined up that gather people who work with people experiencing homelessness. And so I owe the committee an update of the particular dates and times so that we can be sure to cover those meetings and be able to provide information and start sharing about, okay, so who is the Human Rights Commission and what does it mean that there shouldn't be discrimination based on housing status, and how can you report in if you experience an incident or a concern of bias or discrimination? So we'll want to have those conversations. Been trying to share informally with organizations that I get to work with, being a liaison on these issues, but we'll hit some of the committees as well in the coming month or two. So maybe I'll pause there and see if there's questions or remarks related to Chapter 97.
Yeah, I just want to thank the whole commission for all their hard work. I know this has been, years in the making. I know we talked about making houselessness individuals a protected class for years now. And so it's about to happen. So I really appreciate everybody's work in the commission. And you too, Gretchen, I really appreciate all the work you do for us as well.
My pleasure. Speaking of appreciations, I forgot Linnell is with us, and Linnell was a member of the public who also testified Monday evening in support of the ideas. So Linnell, thank you for your remarks as well.
Thank you all so much. It was an honor to be able to testify and like to follow up for all the work you guys did. I can't even convey how grateful I am. And I'm looking forward to learning more about how this plays out and how it can help educate and maybe even go statewide about it. Thank you.
Well, very good. If there's nothing else on that topic, I can roll in, like Angelo said, to the Equity Asks update, if that sounds good. I reviewed the document, and for those of you who are wondering, what are we talking about? And I need to send it to our newest members. The commission identified a list of equity asks or things that could be done in the community and in Salem to advance equity. And so I've been trying to report on progress of those at different months. I should really do another written update as well. There was an item that's called Fund 22 that talks about trying to distribute funding in equitable ways. And today the city released communication about a new notice of funding opportunity that would provide dollars to help with crisis situations. And they were sure to distribute far and wide to really try to make the information available to a number of community organizations. There was also a distribution of funding opportunity with similar wide distribution that relates to opportunities to support culturally themed events in the area. So that went out as well. There's an item on, it's called Celebrate 5 on the document that talks about cultural celebrations, and there's work underway to bring back a Hispanic Heritage Month cultural celebration. That was done last in 2019, and so there's work underway to rebuild that effort and bring back an event. So stay tuned for some detail on that. There was also something called Support 39 that relates to mobile crisis response. That item is coming back to City Council with an information report on November 14th. There's research underway about looking for funding for that particular project. There's also been work done by Marion County to expand mobile crisis response as well in the area, and they've been seeking staff to actualize some new funding and activities that they have in mind around crisis response. So those were the updates that I brought today, and I don't know if there's any questions for me or comments on those. Great. Well, Angela would next then be Kelsey for the LGBTQIA plus.
All right, I'll go ahead and go. This is Kelsey. So I wasn't able to be at that last meeting. So Kathy and Gretchen, thank you so much for being there, and I'll be at the next one. So the meeting was canceled, but we do have an update. And Gretchen, you can provide more context with this, but the Safe Spaces initiative program that we were developing, it's not the end, but the city found that we lacked, that they lacked capacity to be able to meet kind of the needs and the tasks, the requirements, like time-wise and personnel-wise, in order to do it in a proper, respectful way that the program deserves. So unfortunately, we're putting a pause on it, but I do want to talk about we worked hard on it. I know people will be a little disappointed, but again, this is a pause, not a stop. So hopefully we can find a way to get it done in another way, look at different approaches, what other people are doing. So Gretchen, do you want to share anything else?
No, Kelsey, actually, that was really perfect and correct. I'm curious about exploring some partnerships. Checked in, for example, with Chemeketa Community College about some mission alignment with some of the work that they're doing around a pretty similar initiative and their objective around education and their commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion in Salem. And they're certainly interested to talk with us and see if and how. So maybe with leveraging some partnerships, we might be able to get it done. And there could be a role for us that matches our capacity. And we leverage some of the expertise of some other organizations as well. Yeah, so we're just looking for a way to get it done that'll make sure that we're actually able to get back to people and do a good job with the program and with a vision.
Thank you, Gretchen. I think that's the only update. Well, we have next month, we have Trans Day of Remembrance at the library. That date is, my calendar is not working, so if anyone has that off the top of their head.
I do, Kelsey. It's Sunday, November 20th at 7 p.m.
Okay.
And I think
Thank you.
the team is still looking for speakers and readers, if I'm not mistaken. We do have a couple of readers confirmed, but there's still a little bit of room if there's interest in speaking at the event.
So if you or someone you know is interested, please send them Gretchen's information. And I think that's it. Questions?
This is Kathy. I just with the Safe Spaces project, I hope we can bring that back soon, because we did put a lot of work into that, and it's been we've been working on that for a long time, and so I hope it can just kind of get temporarily filed away and brought back somehow. So
This is Susan. A little bit of language thing here. I was thinking when Kelsey was talking, when I was working in higher ed, I used to explain to students that they were not dropping out, they were stopping out, and that they would be back when the time was right. So I think that this initiative is not done. We're just pausing, as you said. But I think it's important for us to continue the work and to not think that this is permanent.
Thanks for that, Susan.
Angelo, oh, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Kelsey. Yeah, I mean, I do share the disappointment in stopping, pausing the Stasis program. I know again this was years in the making, but I'm glad that you guys are pursuing other opportunities and are trying to make this work. So I'm glad that it's not like a cancellation. It's pause, and we'll get back to it. So thank you for your continued work.
My
Any
pleasure.
other-
It's really more of like a hunt for additional resources to make sure we can do it right. Like, who else can help out?
Yeah. Yeah, no, again, I'm glad it's just a pause and not a, cancellation of everything you guys have done so far. So I'm glad. Any other questions regarding this topic? All right, Gretchen, staff updates?
Yeah, I have two. One of them is just to let you know that I did reach out to our elected officials, making sure that they got a warm invitation to attend your meetings. And so we may see mayor or council members popping in as they can and wish. So stay tuned for that as we see of their availability. And then I wanted to just make sure you all were invited to Monday night's event. I hope you got an email from me. The city is doing a volunteer recognition event to celebrate the activities of volunteers throughout Salem. The mayor and the city council will be there. There's going to be music and food and really fun recognitions. And so if you're looking for a good time, that is coming up this Monday. And each of you are contributing in so many ways and everyone's welcome. It's Monday, October 17th. It's at the Salem Public Library. The doors open at 5 p.m. and the formal program will begin at 6 p.m. So come anytime in there and we'd love to see you. It'd be fun to see you in person and get to thank you in person for your help. And that's all I've got on staff updates.
Yeah, thank you. How about community calendar?
Yeah, once again, I am just admitting I am not getting to that. Speaking of capacity and running out of capacity. So I would just say that please do send events as you discover them that you think would be of interest to the commission. And I'm happy to send those. And I'm still looking for someone who might be up for compiling the calendar. I used to really enjoy that task. And hopefully if I come up for air soon, I'll be able to start doing that again. But we used to compile a calendar that had a number of events that would be of interest to the commission to share with you all. And lately it's dissolved into just forwarding as we learn things. So if anyone's interested in helping out with that, it's a volunteer task I would welcome. But otherwise, I'll keep trying to forward stuff to you as I learn of it. And also feel free to share if you're aware of events that are coming up.
There's the Salem for Refugee event. I think somebody already mentioned it, but it's one that you can host a table. It's free. The city's hosting. We actually have 2 tables now full of city staff members, but if the HRC wants to have a table, it's 8 people per table, and there are 2 different times. So it's Friday, November 18th. There's a seating at 4:30 p.m. and then another one at 7 p.m. And I'm trying to figure out where, I can't remember where exactly it's at. I'll have to figure that out. But anyway, if you look on their website, their public website, it'll have a link for that. So it's a good program.
I hope you also have that. I think that's one of the email forwards I did. I hope you've got that as well. And I can resend that if that would be helpful to folks.
Yeah, and it's at the Willamette Heritage Center.
Gretchen, this is Kathy. I have a question on another topic. A while back, we had talked about training for the commission, and we had a whole list of, and I'm just wondering with new commissioners coming on board and a new year coming up, if that might be something we can look at after the first of the year again.
That's a great idea, Kathy. And I do have 2 threads that I've been working down. One, to try to accomplish that. We took a look at the training list that a previous commission had developed and selected some priorities. There's one thread that I've been in touch with a staff person that Lieutenant Aguilar helped me connect with at the Salem Police Department and with the Center for Hope and Safety. And they're actually discussing a collaboration for some training materials that they can share back with the commission. So there's one thread in progress, but I don't have it yet. And then another one, we had a volunteer trainer that was very interested in helping out, but needed us to be in person. And so now that the decision has been made to return to in person instead of on the computer, I think I'll be able to reach back out to them and benefit from their expertise. So I'm excited about, I've got 2 threads working, but it's definitely been really slow coming, but hope to have both of those in the queue pretty soon here.
Hi, Gretchen. This is Hope speaking. I would love to help out with the calendar if
Yay!
that's ever needed. Yeah.
Hope it is so needed. Thank you. I will be in touch with you and provide you with a template and a little bit more information, and we can go from there. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks everybody. And again, regarding the trainings, sometime in January or February, you guys will do your new work plan for the year, with the new leadership and all that good stuff. So that's a good time to bring those trainings up. I think that's a good segue to our member remarks and our announcements. Any of those tonight? I think I do have a question. I mean, is anybody interested in chair and vice chair? That is only 2 meetings away. And just to say again, neither me or Krista are running for our positions again. And so it's important that somebody steps up, 2 people step up. Does anybody have any interest so far?
I just started a new job, so I will see kind of how my capacity is. But if I feel like I have capacity, I would be interested.
Angelo, I received an email from Commissioner Hamadi Jackson, who couldn't be here tonight, but expressed interest to me. I encourage them to let you all know next time they're here with everybody, just FYI.
Yeah, thank you, Gretchen. Do you know which position?
Actually, they said chair.
Okay. All right. I'm just sorry, Kathy, to put you on the spot, but do you have any interest?
Thanks for putting me on the spot, Angelo. I have other things going on that I really don't want to take on more responsibility. I would like to stay actively involved, but I think if I take on more, it might be a little bit too much. So.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear that Hamadi is interested. That would take, if nobody else is interested, that would basically take care of the chair position, but we still need a vice chair. And so that position is still open. And we're going to do our, Gretchen, I forget, is nominations in December as well? And then we vote, or a nomination separate?
You can really do that both ways. Typically, the commission's just done it all in one meeting, but you could take nominations in November and vote in December. I think that's up to you.
Yeah, because I know we've done it both ways on my time during, the commission. So, yeah, again, this is kind of new this year again. We're going to have our voting in December, and then the new chair, new vice chair are going to take over in January for the first meeting. And so, again, please reach out to me. I think I want to, leave a good impression for the next chair and vice chair, because December will be my last commission meeting. I will be resigning from the commission. I still have a year left, but I transferred to a new college, and it's just a little too much for me right now. And so, yeah, that will be December will be my last meeting. And so I really want us to have a good, leadership for next year. And so again, please, if you're at least a little remotely interested, please reach out to me, and we can talk more about that if you'd like. Okay, any other more remarks and announcements for tonight?
Before we go, I have that information for Joaquin and the rest of the group if you want me to share it. So this information is just regarding juveniles involved in bias crime and bias incidents. And I'm hoping by maybe February or March, I'll have a year-end or a year review. So I'll be able to give you, hopefully I'll have a PowerPoint that will, or either that or a written document that will summarize what bias crimes and what bias incidents have looked like this past year, to give you an idea of what categories we're seeing most of, just to give you a better picture. But so right now, for up through today, we have a total of 17 bias crimes reported to us and 17 bias incidents reported. So as far as juvenile involvement, what we're seeing is that juveniles primarily have been suspects. There is one incident where juveniles were the suspect and an adult was the victim, but also generally when the juveniles are the suspect, there are other juveniles who are the victims in those cases. So out of the bias crimes, we had 2 involving locations up in North Salem, and we had 3 bias crimes that involved juveniles. 2 were up in North Salem, 1 was down in Southeast Salem. 2 involved racial slurs being used and a form of harassment. So either some kind of physical contact where injuries weren't involved, but there was some kind of physical disturbance. And then the other one was an anti-LGBTQ type of behavior and also involved harassment, so some kind of physical contact where there was assault. And then we had, out of those bias crimes, as far as the location, 1 was in or near a school area, and 2 were in public areas. So 1 was in an apartment complex, and then 1 was in a playground area, like a public playground area. So those were the bias crimes. For the bias incidents, we had 2 that involved juveniles, distributed evenly, 1 up in Northeast Salem, 1 down in Southeast Salem. Both were involving anti-LGBTQ type behavior, and both involved some kind of verbal altercation, so some slurs used that were anti-LGBTQ. 1 was in a public area, it was like a street sidewalk, and 1 was around a school. So if you look at schools specifically, out of both bias crimes and bias incidents, 2 out of the total 5 involving juveniles for both of those were around schools, and then the other 3 were around other public places where kids generally will congregate. So that's it involving juveniles. But like I said, I'll hopefully January or probably February, March-ish, hopefully I'll have a year-end update, and I can include juvenile stats too to help paint a better picture of that. That's what I had.
Thank you, Lieutenant. That was incredible turnaround. Very, very fast. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Any other remarks and announcements for tonight? All right, hearing none, we'll see you in the November meeting, and this meeting is adjourned. Have a